Always hung out with the girls. Always hung out with the girls. Always hung out with the girls. The girls, they accepted me.
Okay, welcome to the Fluid Voice. There may or may not be tech issues with Perfict. I can't tell. I'm not sure what's going on with that. But I'm still utilizing she/they pronouns for the purposes of animating my face on a Discord server. And I am Ozma In The Dark. Did I mention I was Ozma In The Dark? Anyways, Ozma In The Dark. I am here with Christy. How are you, Christy?
No, I'm still sick. I'm sorry.
Well, you don't need to apologize for being sick.
It's okay. Well, she, her, for purposes of being me.
As good as any.
Yeah.
Perfect. How, if you can hear me, how are you doing? Okay, I'm starting to suspect that that there is tech issues on Perfict's end. So, when Perfict pops back in, I mean, he is still in. Last I heard, Perfict uses he/him pronouns, and is a good ally. But today's topic is emotional labor. How familiar are you with emotional labor? And also, we can accept call-ins whenever we feel like, because there's nothing stopping us. It's our show.
True. How familiar am I with emotional labor? Well, I do a lot of arguing online, which does drain me a bit, but I've always said I'll do this so other people don't have to, and I've got nothing to lose. So I basically don't. I'm doing fine with,
once again, I'm not
the whole.
Wait, I heard Perfict.
There, I just heard people for the first time in a while here. What?
Okay, we didn't hear you for a bit, so I don't know what happened. I don't know what sort of weird tech monstrosity is going on. The show is on live right now, just so you know.
Okay, be there in a minute. Need the passwords.
What? Be there and meet the passwords.
Need the passwords. I don't understand.
I don't know what Perfect's talking about.
I think he may be thinking we're going to Zoom.
Oh, no. Perfect, we are not going to Zoom. We are here.
We're queer, get used to it.
Exactly. So, but yeah, Perfict is quiet, but here, yeah, it's Perfict is in the chat technically, but is technical issues appear to be happening. honestly am struggling to know for sure what counts as emotional labor or whatever, because I know there's various things I'm seeing here uh that count and things that don't count. And I think I might struggle with it a bit more. So uh
What doesn't count?
what doesn't count?
Yeah.
It might depend on the thing. So what was it? Emotional. So there's a difference between emotional labor and mental load. Um, so like the thought process of doing stuff, but I'm not, because a lot of the emotional labor descriptions I'm seeing sound like stuff like particularly relating to it being constantly expected. So it seems like I may have conflicting descriptions of emotional labor. But on the other hand, there's stuff that like a lot of trans people do. Like explain the trans thing. That's definitely okay, so the term
Yeah, well,
yeah, that's not a description of what it is. Yeah, that's not a definition. They're definitely not there's not doesn't seem to be a good breakdown in the thing. So refer to regulating or managing emotions with others as part of one's professional workload, and then expand it to include personal relationships. So with friends, family members, and romantic partners. But like, I don't.
well, if we're doing on that, I'm a musician and a writer, so all of my labor is emotional.
Yeah,
Literally.
yeah, but at the same time, so there's a lot of stuff about like expecting to so like explaining why all the reasons why you're upset at someone if you're upset at someone. Like you have to calm down and explain that. It's expected that you calm down and explain that.
Yeah, well,
And
I don't like.
yeah.
I don't like people insisting I calm down on anything.
Yeah.
Calm down. If you get me, if you get me into this state, then I've already done a lot. It takes a lot to get me there. So
Yeah. Let's see here. This description says partnerships. One person is expected to initiate discussions, whether about emotional topics or life logistics. I'm not sure if that inherently applies because a lot of this is not necessarily the ideal. Yeah. So emotional labor is the process of managing feelings and expressions to fulfill the emotional requirements of a task or social situation. So yeah, it's pretending to be calm when you're not calm. You're like angry for legitimate reasons, or like pretending to be fine with something when it actually upsets you or whatever, because you are expected to be fine with. Well, I mean, with the sexism thing, I think a lot of women are expected to be fine with like listening to all of someone else's problems. I think is an expectation, and sort out people's emotional stuff, even if it's not their job to do it.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's admittedly very easy for me to instinctively do that.
Yeah,
that's why I'm like, is it emotional labor if I instinctively do that and then get upset or don't realize that how much that affected me until later? Is it still emotional labor then or not? My brain's working on the specifics because maybe I didn't look up the specifics long enough beforehand. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I just didn't prepare at all or enough with this episode in general.
Well, it's when you have a category definition, and emotional labor is a category. It's not a strict thing, although most things are categories. So I'm not talking in a way that anybody will understand right now. But yeah, trying to strictly define something is always a way of getting messed up. So.
Yeah, that is true. If things are too strictly defined, then you get a lot of gatekeeping stuff, and I guess also like, I mean, obviously having to explain how something that affected you counted, whether or not that counted as emotional labor, is in itself emotional labor.
A sort, yeah, I guess so.
But yeah, it's I wonder with this stuff at what point do you make limits?
That's for everybody.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Go on.
It's for everybody to decide for themselves, yeah?
Yeah, no, that's true. And this is... says, yes, yes, especially if it's instinctual, it's energy you're using up to try and maintain safety. Well, wasn't even... Like, the instance I'm thinking about wasn't even... It wasn't with relation to my direct safety. It was with the relation to wanting the instinctive desire to want to listen to someone else's problems to try to help. I have this instinctive thing sometimes that doesn't work out, where if I see someone in trouble, I want to help them. Even although like that can wear on me, and then it can get frustrating and stressful for the other person. So it's yeah.
This is why I stay in my room.
Yeah, I tend to be in my room too, although I did get a note recently about noise, but that's because I had my bass booster on. Look, I have a bass booster, and the bass really was affecting downstairs. It very much went through everything, so So yeah, I turned the bass booster off. And that seems to help it. But like, I also got to make a connection of some sort with someone in the apartment, so which is important for unionization. But that's another thing. That's an entirely different topic and much more complicated. Something I know far less about.
Yeah. It's... I don't know. This is a weird topic for me, so...
Admittedly, it was one of those things where my brain initially thought it was a good idea, and then I was because I wanted to talk about it, and then I realized close to the show that I did not know much about it, despite wanting to talk about it. Or not an ideal amount. Which is part of why, if you know more about emotional labor, because this apparently is something I at the very least am struggling a bit to sort out the various types on. Feel free to pop into our Discord, and we'll either M will screen you, or if you are M and want to pop in, that's fine too.
Yeah, pop in, M, because I think Perfict was right. I'm not going to make it through the show, so...
Yeah, I mean, that's another factor. We have a mixture of technical issues and you know, it, and a disease of some sort being mean. Diseases are meanies. Why is disease mean to you, Christy?
Yes. Because I smoke, I eat improperly, I don't take care of myself.
Yeah.
Really?
Diseases do like that. Definitely do. But like...
On the other hand, I wasn't supposed to live to 1, so, you know, that's a thing too.
I mean, yeah, that'll... Well, doesn't that kind of make you supposed to have superpowers? Weren't you supposed to have superpowers?
Are you suggesting that Christy doesn't have superpowers?
Oh.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, no, you're right. I'm sorry. Also, hey, Perfict.
Hello, voice is working now, I guess, a little bit.
Yay, yeah. So we were talking about emotional labor.
Yes, I could hear some of it. I mean, I was playing the YouTube while I was trying to get this to work.
I mean, that'll do it. Do you want to reference anything else first before Colin? I don't know.
Well, when you were talking about listening to people and trying to solve their problems, one of the hardest things to learn for me, and what I view as being progress towards becoming an adult, one of the things you learn as you try and progress to being an adult is to not try and solve their problem. What people need is, that's your need. Their need is to be listened to and heard. Actively listen, let them know you understand what they've said, and don't try and solve their problem. That isn't what they're looking for. They're looking to work through their problem by talking about it.
True. But it's still, like, on an emotional level at the very least, it's hard to be like, you have issues. even though I can't really do much about anything.
Yes. But it's the ooh, I know how to solve your problems. Here, let me show you.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't usually do that. It's usually like I want to, like, I usually get or at the very least I have in the past. I don't think I've actually done this recently, but in the past I have spiraled before wanting just with the emotional aspect of wanting to help and not having anything to help or any way of helping.
Yeah.
Anything that I do, any entering into this can only serve to make it worse.
Yeah, it's just when there's not you don't actually have an option to enter, but there's a part of you that wishes you did to help, like financially or with medication or that, or
Yes,
like a
something you
car
could do,
ride to
anything.
get out of an abusive situation, like yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily disagree. I don't disagree with you, actually. Because unless they ask for it, then all you can realistically do is listen. But it still gets to me on an emotional level, which I think is the thing about emotional labor.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to pull M in. M had to create another Discord because of Discord stuff. Wait.
Okay.
Where'd M go? I dragged M in. Not concerning. Any drag you in. Anyways, yeah, no, it is, like I said, yeah, it is still hard to figure out how much is too much for me. Maybe.
How much emotional labor is too much emotional labor?
Yeah.
I think that's like worry, and worry is kind of an emotional labor. It falls in that category.
I brought M in. She's got a
you
different avatar. Because of Discord stuff. Oh,
Cool.
let me. Oh, there we go. Better.
But worry is something that makes you proactive in preventing bad things from happening and that kind of thing. But worry is also frequently a waste of time, and that just stresses you out. And which is where the line is difficult to discern sometimes.
Yeah. That's definitely the case. Like, I'm. Oh, M. I saw blinkies. No, okay. I don't know what the issue is, but yeah, the Discord is the worst. Maybe that's the issue. It's also easier to use. Anyways, yeah, it's yeah, it is hard to figure out how much of, or sorry, like yes, worry is bad. Worry can be time consuming, but like so is not knowing your limits and going over them, like going hardcore over them. In that, I mean, like knowing your limits is important too, I guess.
Yeah. You'll. Never mind. I thought I had something, and I'm starting to fade here. I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. You're look. Um. Ideally. In my opinion, I personally don't like the idea of feeling shame for not having the spoons for something, or just not being up to something because your limits are different than other people's, and everyone's limits are different for everything.
I'm used to physical limits. I'm not really used to health limits. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm bugging out. I'm so sorry.
No, there's no need to apologize. But yeah, go ahead. Do what's best for you for taking care of yourself.
Okay. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Take care of yourself. Yeah. Um. Have you checked Mike's? Or wait. Uh. Or wait. Maybe it's. One moment. I'm gonna move us to a different channel. Hey, everybody say something now. Okay, here's us. Does not see us. Interesting. Try saying something now. I don't know if it makes difference. Wait a minute, let me actually check a potential technical thing. One moment. Any of the mic's still hot, so. Or wait, no, that's not what I was looking at. Better? Yes, I can hear you.
The buttons changed since last did that. Buttons work better.
Okay.
So the last half, what was saying, I think it was mostly do the things, but not at your own expense. Adults should be responsible for their own emotional state. Is that the gist of it?
Are you talking to me or Perfect?
How are we doing?
I can hear you fine. We're doing well.
Okay. So was the gist of it that basically adults should be responsible for their own emotional state as part of maturing, and was that effectively most of it?
I think she's referring to you, Perfict. Your statement, I think. Maybe?
That was the last.
Oh, wait, what? That was the last thing you heard, or?
Yeah, perfect statement. Last topic that I crossed.
Okay. Are you using push to talk or speaker? M. Are you using push to talk or speaker, or like voice activated?
Preference. I double.
Was that push to talk?
You are correct. I thought that was on.
Yeah, just make sure to hold it until moment after you speak, because otherwise you cut yourself in and out a little bit. But yeah, perfect. Can you hear us? This is the land of a million technical difficulties, apparently. Land of a million technical difficulties. Now I can't hear Perfict. I don't know why. I heard Perfict for a minute there, and then now it stopped. The Discord part of that. Okay. M. You're muted. Or now you're unmuted. So once Perfict gets back, I think he'll be able to explain better. Cause I do not have. Well, I don't have Perfict's memory, but I also don't have a perfect memory. But yeah, I think a part of growing older is knowing. I think Perfict's point was similar to that. Actually, could you repeat that? M. No, no, I pressed buttons. M. Now it's quiet. Now it's quiet everywhere. I also accidentally opened OpenOffice. You did set to push to talk, right? You are pressing the button, right? No. Well, yeah, I'm seeing a blink occasionally, now it's just and now Perfict's gone. Well, let me bring back up the adjusting for technical difficulties. The mics are still hot, but no, this is here. You can type in the chat. So there's call booth chat now. Or, no, M's gone. Now I'm alone. All alone in this dark, shadowy place that is the interwebs. No, M's back. You can type in chat. I don't know what's going on. So I'm assuming you can hear me. Maybe. Bombarded him with questions. I know you can't see this. I'm keeping up the play because of thought you were okay. Type yes if you can hear me. Okay. What's the voice? So in voice and video is input mode, voice activity, or push to talk. Okay. Okay. What button do you have assigned to that?
Wait, do I have to do this the whole time?
You have to push to talk if you're pushing to talk.
But that's a different. Okay, fine. So I have to do. Okay, fine. I have to push the other button. Okay.
The other button. Okay. So apparently, okay. So technical issues maybe have been resolved. Hopefully for the rest of the show. Hopefully.
Okay.
So, M was asking you, Perfict, about the thing you said about growing older and understanding limits with emotional labor, or something to that degree.
Yes.
Does that sound about right, Perfect? In terms of what you said? Perfect? Oh no. Well then, okay. Well,
Okay.
I guess we'll talk about a different aspect until Perfect gets back.
Okay.
I think. I mean, we can talk about that. Regardless.
So
Because
okay.
ultimately, it doesn't matter if it's Perfect's position or someone else's. It's still good to break down.
Yeah, and he can correct me at any point he feels necessary.
And due to technical issues, obviously, if he doesn't correct you right away, that doesn't necessarily mean he agrees with the point. It doesn't necessarily inherently mean he agrees with the points you're making, or the or the characterization of the points he was making.
Correct. I'm going to assume at this point that everyone disagrees with me until proven otherwise.
Okay.
So, when I was a kid, because of the way that I grew up, one as a girl, and also as one whose body required non-standard versions from people. From very early, it was an expectation that because my presence was default disruptive, I learned very early that it was my quote unquote responsibility to make my appearance less, or my presence rather be less stressful for other people. Especially but not limited to the adults in the room, especially to answer any and all questions of any peers, whatever they might be.
Yeah, that sounds like the particular type of the particular aspect of emotional labor with regards to marginalized groups, because there's a lot of aspects of emotional labor, or there seems to be at the very least.
Yes.
Which, to be fair, I don't think that's what Perfict was. I think Perfict was talking about the aspect of, more so the aspect of emotional labor with relation to trying to listen and that aspect of helping people with stuff, even though that can emotionally affect you in a similar way.
Right. And that's important as well. But I think especially in Western cultures, and especially for women and female people, or whatever, female presenting people, the presumption of emotional labor is generally do the thinking that doesn't revolve around completion of a physical task, and have like all the stuff done and pretty, like the emotional equivalent of have the meals prepared kind of thing. So have the tools available for the adults, or quote unquote the men in the room, to be able to do the things. And so that emotional component is generally seen as like a more softer feminine domain, because it's considered to be less physical.
Well,
Typically,
I mean, I hear what you're saying, but the way you framed stuff sounds like almost like a combination of mental load and emotional labor, which are two slightly different things. Although I get what?
yeah, they're related, but
Yeah, although mental load is more if we're talking about stereotypes with masculinity, anything with relation to emotions are dissuaded. Although when it comes to like mental loads, that relates a lot more to whether or not the position is more national. Well, I mean, at its core, nationalistic, I want to say, because like the dissuasion of intellect is specific to certain parts of culture for the purpose of creation of soldiers, and in that sense mental load is dissuaded more. But like if you look at 50s stuff, there's aspects of like jobs that men are expected to do the mental load from, and then like if you take this stereotypical 50s thing, a lot of men are taking the mental load, but women are supposed to take some mental load and a lot of emotional labor. That's at the very least the impression I get.
Right. My understanding of mental load is it's more logistics based.
Yeah, like when it comes to marketing or jobs, like if you look at any 50s sitcom,
Right.
usually there's a bunch of mental load that the man has, and if the woman complains about it, um she's told off like they're the same.
Right. So, like, as kind of an example, like, it might be in a 50s style position be more acceptable for a man to do the shopping for whatever, whether it's groceries or not. It would be more acceptable, less so for groceries, but for to get the actual bits to do the things.
I mean,
More
more so if your wife's sick with the groceries. Oh.
well, yeah, but okay. Um, so, but it's in that example, kind of, it's the woman's responsibility to know what her man likes for dinner and how he likes it. So he may or may not be the one to get the items, but she's responsible for getting them prepared and presented properly. To use a more concrete example, in that way.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, like that. Once again, that does sound like aspects of both, because you have the logistics of the cooking, and then you have the emotional aspect of because I mean I can't speak for everybody, but I assume most people like pretty good tasting food um when presented to them. So there's an emotional joy and potential tension release from that.
Yeah. To that example, um, a phrase that I grew up well acquainted with is all good stuff went into it. So the upshot being, like, actual food and things with nutritional value went into this. So it may not have turned out appearing the way that we intended it to, and it may not even taste the way we intended it to, but it will do the job that food is supposed to do as food. So just, it's food. It'll do the food things. Just eat the food.
I've made a few things like that.
Oh, perfect! You're back.
Yeah.
And then
Will serve as food.
Yeah.
I think we've all made things like that at a various point where it's like, okay, this is not what I intended it to be, but it's what I have access to, and it will meet the need that I have for nutrition at this point. So, like it or not, I'm just going to deal with what's in front of me. because it's on a plate and it's here. And that to me is like a physical manifestation of one of the more classical examples of emotional labor that is kind of expected for people to do. It's like, well, it's here and nobody else really wants to deal with it. So if you have the skills or the ability to deal with it, then you should be the one to address it. Whether you like it or not, whether it is effective for you or not, whether it feels good for you or not, you should just take what's on your plate. And sometimes you can even get to a point where if you're seen to be either good at doing that or you're the person in the room who like can do it the best or is least likely to put up about doing it, more stuff will get pushed on your plate emotionally. I don't want to deal with this of this thing. I don't have to think about this thing, so you do it. I don't want to, so you handle it. That kind of aspect.
Well, I mean that's definitely one of the rumor aspects, and I think that depends obviously from in the loosest version of the term, relationship to relationship. But like it's how should I put it? There's a mixture of societal. There's expectations people put on you. There's societal expectations, and then there's expectations that you put on yourself. And
right, but generally the expectations you put on yourself as either a not tiny child, like once you're socially aware, and then as you grow into adult until possibly you have other tools, you take those roles based on what has been expected of you in the past. Like, okay, for example, I'm the one hypothetically who if I know daddy gets home at a certain time, if he doesn't get home until late, like if he's supposed to be home at 6, but he gets home at 7, and I know if he doesn't have caffeine and water, he's really agitated. So if mom's busy, then it's my job to make sure that that's supplied to him. And on an emotional level, it's my job to read what his emotional or physical state is without him having to tell me, kind of thing.
yeah.
So if you're exposed to that kind of stuff as a kid, as an example, then you get into a relationship with a partner and it's just natural for you to figure, okay, if this is what I had to do for my parents, my grandparents, extended family, whatever, then this is by extension a role that my partner is going to expect me to take on for them too. And if I want to stay safe and I want to avoid unnecessary conflict, then it's my responsibility to know when they're tired or hungry or stressed or sleepy. And, I'm expected to know where to keep their self-soothing supplies available to them, because if they're too stressed or too spirally, they might not have the energy to supply it for themselves.
Yeah. There there appears to be someone new in the waiting room. I don't know if Perfect's thing is up. Would you be interested in doing the screening?
I would be, but I don't think I can from here without breaking something.
No. What do you mean without breaking something? Um, what do you
I'll do what I can do. I'll see what I can do. Hold on.
Okay.
Just vamp.
Just vamp? Well, they're in the waiting room. Vamp? I don't know. The stream of technical difficulties. Well, apparently I am stuck by myself at the moment, and I don't particularly have the energy to sort out the screening process myself for a variety of reasons. Although,
Okay.
hopefully... What? Oh, yes?
I'm waiting for a reply for them. We'll see how it goes. I'm not.
Wait, you're not going into the waiting room?
I'm in the waiting room. I'm waiting for
No,
them.
you're not. You're in the call booth. No,
No,
there's a waiting room call-in. I meant that they're like right there below us in the waiting room. Like right below us.
I know. I'm working on it.
Okay. So things are being worked on in this technical difficult time period where technical difficulties have assaulted our beloved show, and by beloved I mean full of people are okay with it. Hey, Perfict. You have returned once again. Oh dear.
Okay. Can anybody hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Oh.
Okay, are you willing to screen the waiting room? Or can you?
That
I
doesn't
don't
seem to be a real possibility at this point. That's
Yeah,
not
that's what I
realistic.
figured. That's why I was asking M to do that, but M appears to still be in the call booth.
I'm also in the waiting room chat.
Yeah, but like the call booth is generally a way to have a quicker screening process. So
okay,
you can take somebody's temperature quickly by voice, and find out that they are
it's a
jerk
lot.
and you don't want to have them on the show.
It's a lot easier, or at the very least. And also, I'm streaming. So. Okay, now she just disappeared. Well, I am filled with worry. Of course, I always worry when that's people who haven't showed up
It's an emotional
before. It is an emotional labor to screen someone, by the way. That is also true.
See, I don't find that to be that hard.
Well, at the very least for me,
I
because
think that
like
may be the experience of having a parent.
Yeah, because some of the things that are potentially said or sorted out is very much like and especially with the types of people who are willing to jump in and say awful stuff. Oh, haha. I'm guessing she got a read. Hey, I'm guessing you got a read on the person. I pulled you back into the call booth.
Yeah, I think
Did you ban them?
I think once they were questioned, they vacated.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna AFK for a second to go ahead and kick them because I don't want to deal with that.
Maybe we can win them over.
Okay.
Wait,
okay.
are they already like gone? Did they like leave the server?
I don't know if they left the server, but they left.
No, I'm not seeing them on the server. I don't think. I think they might have left the server.
That works out. That works out.
Yeah, no, this works out. No, this is why it's really helpful.
There are
that screening process.
Yeah,
there are plenty of places to have a battleground of discussion over trans issues. There are lots and lots of places on Discord where you can have that happen. I think that this is supposed to be a safe space.
It's definitely supposed to be a safe, more on the safer end, and because it's not, I don't think it's a good platform for a lot of the other stuff. Yeah.
Where you can come and you don't have to have that discussion today. That isn't what. So that's what I mean. That's a thing that people need, is a place to go where they don't have to do battle today.
Yeah, because that battle is in itself emotional labor. So this is an example of
ding ding ding. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, no, this is an example of emotional labor that I can't deal with, especially when I'm the main person streaming. Technically, I have the proper setup to do it. I just it just drains me if I do that all the time. That's why it's nice to I need other help, and it's not necessarily what's emotional labor for one person isn't necessarily emotional labor for the other person.
Yeah, I don't mind doing it. It's just the buttons are different than the last time I was on Discord, and I have not done Discord on this platform before. So it's like, it's a different process than it is typically for me. So that's my thing right now. But yeah, in my experience, it was very much and this could be somewhat atypical, I don't know, but was very much based on you're smart, you're articulate, you are traditionally attractive from the neck up. So it is therefore your duty and obligation to prove yourself worthy and valuable and one of the good ones. So that is the kind of emotional labor that I was tasked to do from a very, very early age. And I will still do that kind of stuff sometimes to my own detriment. That the idea that I come into a space and my first instinct is I need to prove why I'm there.
Oh. Yeah, no, that's I get the impression, and I could be wrong, that's very disability that does sound a little bit more disability specific when it comes to proving well, no, not necessarily. So it depends on context, but if you're doing that for most things, because disabled people are viewed as useless or worthless or any number of negative terminologies that it's they're definitely, I get the impression there's more weight. Not that you don't have to, like, if you're new to a job, you have to prove to some degree why you're there, but like that's minor in comparison.
Yeah. Um,
Not to say
and
that's not still something, because that is some of the stress of getting into a new job, but like it's like having something happen to you in specific circumstances for the first month and a half is different from having to deal with it for a lifetime, I assume.
yeah, and there's also an aspect, um, the experiences that I had that were somewhat gender specific as a kid were literally centered around conversations like, you can't be a girl, you know too much about tech. You can't really be a girl because you've read too many books. You can't really be a girl, you know too much about science.
Well, yeah, but I mean that I mean the gendered stuff. It's very much they say stuff like that, and then like if you had turned out to be trans mask in some way, it would be very much the same. You have been told you can't be a girl because of those things, and then it would become you can't be a guy because of all these other things. So it's a lose situation by default.
Yeah, it's always too much and not enough. You're too much of this and not enough of that. So effectively, you're not anything then.
Yeah, I
That
mean, yeah. Although that does get into a variety of other related topics, but not less to do with emotional labor, um, which is the more draining of
yeah.
aspects. But yeah, like I said before, I think you made a slight comment that you counted as emotional labor, um, like listening to someone's problem and just like relating to it or whatever, and not thinking I minded, and then afterwards realizing I may have overdone myself or whatever, or maybe things affected me more because of emotional stuff. That's a very vague way of putting it. Basically, a person. I had a conversation with a person who said stuff that reminded me of the person who emotionally abused me for years. So there was red flags with that person's personality, and the person I was talking with was venting, and I was um, listening, and this is part of the reason why I was like, well, don't have a guest set up, and I was like, there's a lot of, I was hoping I could get a guest earlier, and but it had gotten too close to the time, and then there's a lot of stuff that I maybe didn't do ideally, but like, yeah, it was just one of those things where I couldn't tell how it affected me until afterwards, because like I'm aware of stuff, and there's the positive aspect of relating to someone along with the negative aspects, remembering negative experiences. So
And
I'm
that's
not sure. I'm not sure what my point was. I already lost my train of thought with that, but
No, you're right, and that's the tricky thing because like nobody puts themselves deliberately in a situation not realizing they're going to be exhausted at the end. Like if you decide to do something like go to the gym or run a marathon, you are consciously aware to at least some degree how that's going to affect your body and your physical and mental states. Sometimes if you get pulled into a conversation with someone or you're in a new social setting, you're exposed to new people and either new triggers or new versions of old triggers or whatever. And by the end of it, you can just be like emotionally spent and not at all have been prepared for that whatsoever.
Well, yeah, but I mean, a lot of that reminds me of more extreme versions of events. Like this is more like I was like, it's fine, and I was, to my knowledge, everything was fine, and I didn't process that things. And there's more extreme versions of that. So there's emotional abuse, like there's a specific feeling that I get from certain aspects of exploitative emotional labor, where I'm tricked into doing emotional labor for someone else, and I that's the best way I can explain it at the moment when it comes to abusive stuff, since we're talking about emotional labor. But like there's another it's a different, which is that is a different feeling from just being voluntarily like they're talking about something that you are interested in, engaged in, and want to listen to them, and everything seems fine. They seem like a nice person. It's not like they were doing stuff. They were venting, and you understood why they would want to vent. But then afterwards, like being like having the venting, the listening to the venting take it. It can wear on me even if I don't realize that it wears on me, but not in like the more extreme way, because it's a different feeling than the hot cold emotional abuse wearing on my emotions. I don't know, I might be thinking through stuff a bit. I might be overthinking things a bit. I don't know.
Makes a lot of sense.
I will take your word for it.
I think I understood it.
Okay. Uh
So you're outvoted. You made sense.
darn it. I hate it when I make sense.
When you make sense unintentionally, it can be tricky. And I do think there is also an element to that in the idea of in the moment when you're immediately done with the thing, like talking to this person who was not trying to be, they weren't a person who wasn't trying to take advantage of you. They were trying to process a situation. They were venting about a situation. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say, I don't think, like, I mean, I don't know if that counts as I don't know, I always, maybe I just associate intent with taking advantage of someone a lot of times. Or, I don't know. I to the best of my knowledge, consented to more of the venting.
Right, but in the moment, you told yourself it was fine to get to the end of that like road, that process, and then it wasn't until it was over where your brain went, "Oh, that was heavier than I thought. Whoops."
Yeah. Probably a better way of phrasing it. Um, and now my brain is filled with worries. I'm like, am I just causing tons of emotional labor on this show? Am I just.
No.
Okay, fine. But how am I supposed to paint myself as a villain then? This is what happens when I'm tired and Christy's not here.
I'm much closer to a supervillain than you, so no.
Yeah. No and yes. No, you wouldn't be responsible for it, but yes, yes, you're talking about something, and when you talk about something, you could form the trigger for somebody else going on their emotional journey due to their past experience and that making an emotional weight for them. That's not intended, but it's also that's accepted as part of what's going on. That's why when someone's doing that and you start to experience that and they're talking to you, but you're kind of wandering into your own emotional past, you don't say, stop, I don't want to hear anymore. You say, okay, because they're unpacking with you and you're helping them to unpack.
Yeah.
But you're taking on a load while you're doing it. It's just they're not offloading onto you that part. It's just something that's created by your past.
Yeah.
So I'm saying you aren't responsible for when you discuss something, it causing that trigger, but it does happen. Meaning that if somebody did say, whoa, this is causing an emotional reaction for me, I need to bow out, you need to be understanding of that. And
Well,
if
yeah.
they're brave enough to say that, I mean, just give them the respect.
Yes. Just in general, that's important because self-care is important. Like,
Yeah, but
you,
self-care can trigger blamefulness. I'm saying you have to watch yourself. Don't be blameful on people if they do that. Don't go, well, they're just interested in themselves. They wouldn't even let me unpack. No, 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 no. Don't do
no.
that.
Yeah, that's not how that works. It's very much, yeah, people have different needs at different time, and you have to let people take care of themselves because they know themselves better than you know them. And I think with that we should. No, there's a little bit more time. You know what? Let's talk about something cheery. This is this has been. It's possible I may have gone deep into my own issues probably a bit too much this episode. So let's end on a happy note.
No,
Um
this is an important thing to be able to do, and you can get to happy stuff in a second. These kinds of conversations, minus the technical whatever, are important for people to have, and it is important to take care of ourselves and each other as best we can. And you can't know another person's triggers unless you already know them really well. And sometimes even then, if you're far enough into your own, you lose track of things. But it's emotional labor is a real thing, even if it's not tangible, and it's important that we take care of each other as best we can, and just do the best we can with what we have.
and communicate and be open with communication, which is always a good thing. I mean, as much as you feel comfortable and safe doing so, which is why it's important to to communicate, because people don't necessarily inherently know. Most people can't read each other's minds. I would say everyone can't read each other's minds, but sometimes you can predict people you know well enough. To some degree, but you have to know enough. Anyways, that's another topic. But
Yeah, I could
yeah.
address. There have been some questions raised about what I was saying earlier and that kind of thing. What I was talking about is that very often when people do want to talk to you, what they want to do is they want to talk. It's important that you are there, that you aren't just a pair of ears. The meat between the ears is important to them, but they're not trying to query you for solutions to their problem. They're trying to discuss the problem and in that way help themselves work it out. That's how people are, by talking, by putting it into words and discussing and communicating the idea to some other mind. We work on how to address the problem. And what I'm saying is that it's very hard to realize that when you are, it's part of becoming an adult to realize that sometimes somebody just wants you to talk to them. And one of the best things you can say to them is, do you have a plan for how to deal with this? And things like that, where then they can say, well, that's why I'm coming to you. And then you can say, oh, well, maybe I have a few ideas. But if they aren't looking for ideas from you, don't try and jam them up with telling them what they should and shouldn't be doing.
Yes.
And that's because when we model what we when you're a kid, you come to an adult with problems, you're looking for the adult to tell you something about how to solve the problem. That's what kids do. They come to adult tell the adult about the problem, the adult tells them how to go about solving the problem.
Well,
And so they
depends on your
want to assume
childhood.
that you come to them with a problem. But I'm saying that that's the role that they're trying to, you have an urge to fulfill, and you go, I ignore that. This is how adults do it. You come and talk to me, and that's how you work out your problem. And to just play the role of listening, active listening, paying attention, and just letting them know that you.
Just letting him know that you what?
Are paying attention.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I let go too early. That you
Um,
are paying attention. Just paying attention and letting them know you are paying attention.
yeah, that was uh that was not reflective of my childhood. Probably part of the reason for having to sort out some of that, because it's very much my childhood was my parents were um working a lot, and we had issues, and the parents didn't have a solution or any idea of how to teach us how to find the solution ourselves. So I yeah, that it probably is part of the reason why my brain goes I want to be a superhero in a show, and just magically fix people's problems. and I realize a lot of that involves work as well.
Well, or to give people tools they didn't know they needed or they didn't know how to use, and that's important. And there is value in that as long as you don't do it to your own expense.
Yeah, and that's a part of the reason why self-worth is important. Because then you're motivated to you're more if you have the more self-worth you, or not the more, it's not a simple one-to-one equation. It's an emotional aspect of yourself, and you believe yourself at least as worthy as any other human being to exist, then it's easier to put like the slight, even if it's like a small amount, like something, have some reason to value what happens to you, and to not overdo things.
And the tools to communicate what your limits are important too. And it's hard. And it's funny, the example you give with adults, perfect, because I had what I thought was an adult relationship with someone at one point who literally, in the midst of me having what I thought was a very honest conversation with this person, looked at me literally and said, don't talk to me about things anymore that I can't fix for you. If it's not something you expect me to like physically fix, I don't want to hear it. They're just like, oh, then I guess we're adults in this relationship. All right.
Yeah, see, they haven't learned how to transition into adult to adult things. They haven't done that, and it's a very hard lesson to learn.
Well, yeah, and I mean, with a lot of things, involves help. It helps to have the language to explain yourself or whatnot, or figure yourself out.
Right, but what they didn't realize, that, but it is sort of the subtext of what they were saying is, if you don't come to me as a child, don't come to me.
Yeah, it is kind of saying that.
Yeah.
But as for happier stuff, I said transition to happier stuff. No, I mean, we're together. I mean, that sounds like we're not together. We are people in a room together on the Discord, and we are having a conversation, and that's a good thing, that we feel safe enough to talk with each other, disagree, and not feel like that's a negative thing.
Yeah. And to process emotions for ourselves and just be open and realistic about things. And hopefully, if other people see some of it might resonate with someone else later.
Hopefully. With that being said, it is past the hour and a half mark. Perfect. Where can people find you?
Oh, sure. You found out that people disagree with you, and now you're going to end the show. I see how this goes. So, yeah.
I think this show has started with everyone disagreeing with each other. I don't. Back with the original host. I don't think. I mean, to be fair, I wasn't in control then.
You can find me. You can find me on Discord on the Fluid Voice. If you send me an @ I will at least be there in text. And also the Rumpus Room is a good place to find me in text. Just send a @
Yeah, and there's a link to the Rumpus Room below. I to my knowledge, you aren't.
I am everywhere and nowhere. If you find me somewhere, find me on the Fluid Voice Discord. You can find me on some other assorted Discord sometimes, maybe.
Well, yeah, and yeah, and various just various places. Although yeah, and helping out in a lot of places as well.
I do enjoy swinging a wrench.
Yes, which you do have here. As for
And we
me,
appreciate that.
yeah, and by the way, before I forget, all the way at the end, like, comment, and subscribe if you've enjoyed this. I know this has been like a lot of this has been an issue with heavy topics and technical difficulties, but they're not all like this. Well, hopefully the better aspects. And you can find me on you can find me in Discord in a few different places. I probably stretch myself a bit thin in Discord sometimes. You can find me on Twitch, streaming League of Legends from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Wednesday. You can find me on you can also find me on Twitch streaming the Rainbow Shelter News on Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern, along with Rainbow Shelter News also shows the VOD shows up here. You can also find me on my channel, usually ranting about something on Mondays, or just being there. And can't think of anything currently that I'm working on. If there's a possibility, we'll see with stuff. There might be some working out, but we might have Zavaris again on the show, talking about toxicity in gaming. That might be next week. It'll be a pre-record. It might not be. That depends on scheduling. I might figure something else out. But we will try to be here every week. Oh, and I was on Rico Rants recently, talking about disability rights. I can't remember if that was last Saturday or the Saturday before, but go check that out. Rico Rants is an amazing dude.
We can link that in the description.
What?
You can put the link in the description.
Oh, yes. I'll edit it. I'll edit the description afterwards and put the link in there. That's not a bad idea. With that being said, though, your voice matters, your life matters, and you matter. Never forget that. Bye.
Peace.
Bye.